Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us.
Hello, everyone. It is great to be here.
Today, we are looking at a situation that almost everyone in the world has to face at some point. Imagine you are walking into a new room.
Oh, that classic scenario.
Yes, exactly. Maybe it is a room full of new classmates or maybe a room full of new coworkers. You take a seat, someone looks at you, smiles, and says those famous words. So tell me about yourself.
I mean, it is such a simple request, right?
Right. But it can make your hands sweat and your heart beat just a little bit faster.
Mhm.
What do you say? Do you talk about your job, your family, your hobbies? Where do you even begin?
It is a very common challenge. And when you're trying to answer that question in a language you are actively learning, like English, it can feel even more difficult. Your mind might suddenly go blank.
You know the words, but organizing them into a good story on the spot is tough.
Yeah.
You might worry about making a grammar mistake or sounding boring. That is exactly why we are focusing on this today. Our source material is a fantastic, highly practical transcript from a channel called Mr. English.
It's a great source.
It really is. It features a straightforward conversation between two people, Paul and Emily. And at first glance, it just looks like a standard language learning dialogue. But our mission today is to look closer. We want to discover the perfect blueprint for introducing yourself in English with total confidence.
I love that mission.
But before we jump in, a quick note for you, our listener. Because we are diving into language learning today, we are going to take our time. We want to keep the vocabulary clear and ensure the pace is comfortable and easy to follow.
That is a great approach. No need to rush.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I first read the transcript, I thought, well, this is just basic facts. But there is actually a deep strategy hiding in their conversation, isn't there?
There really is. The conversation between Paul and Emily seems simple on the surface, but is not just a random list of facts. It actually provides a highly effective framework for building human connection.
A framework. I like that word.
It shows you exactly how to build a bridge between yourself and a stranger, step by step. And the best part is, you do not need complicated vocabulary to do it. You just need the right strategy.
Let's look at the very first step of that strategy, which is establishing the foundation. Who are you and where are you?
The basics.
Right, the basics. The source shows us that a good introduction starts by answering the basic questions people naturally have about you. Your name, where you are from, where you live, your age, and your job.
Very foundational pieces of information.
Exactly. For example, Paul clearly says his name, and he even spells it out, P-A-U-L. He tells us he is 28, and he is an English teacher from Canada. But then he does something interesting with his living situation.
Right. Instead of just saying, I live in Canada, he provides a mental picture.
He does. He says he lives in a small house with a garden in a quiet small town. Now, contrast that with Emily.
A completely different environment.
Completely different. Emily is 25, an art student from the United States. And she says she lives in a small, nice apartment right in the middle of a big, busy, noisy city. Now, let me ask you, is it really necessary to mention that your city is noisy or that you have a garden? Why not just say the name of the city?
What's fascinating here is how these simple descriptive words do so much heavy lifting in a conversation. By sharing these basic contrasts, a quiet garden versus a busy, noisy city, they're creating visual anchors.
Visual anchors, giving the other person a picture in their mind.
Exactly. If you tell someone you live in a big, busy city, the other person now has something to react to. They can immediately think, oh, I live in a city too. I understand that life. Or they might think, wow, I could never live in a loud city. I need my quiet town.
It creates an instant conversational bridge. It gives the other person something to grab onto so they can ask the next question. Instead of just nodding and saying, oh, nice, they can say, a noisy city. Do you like the energy or do you find it tiring?
Precisely. You are giving them conversational tools, and you are doing it with very basic English words. Big, busy, small, quiet. You do not need an advanced degree in literature to paint a clear picture of your life. You just need to choose descriptive words that show your reality.
Okay, so we have the foundation built. The other person knows our name, our job, and the kind of place we live in. Now we move to the next phase, which is adding color to the picture.
This is where it gets warmer.
Yes, the conversation moves right from professional facts to personal connections, specifically family dynamics and furry friends, pets.
Family is a very natural next step. It moves the relationship away from just professional facts, like being a teacher or an art student, to something more personal.
But I notice they do not give a long, boring history of their whole family.
No, not at all.
They just share a few key highlights. Emily mentions her older brother Tom, who is 29, her mother who teaches little children, and her father who is a restaurant chef. She even jokes that having a chef for a father means the food at home is always delicious.
That is a great little detail to add.
It is. On the other hand, Paul comes from a very different background. His family is rooted in medicine and the arts. His father is a doctor, his mother is a writer, and his younger sister, Sarah, is a music student who plays the piano.
Notice what they are doing here. They're not sharing deeply private secrets. They're just sharing simple, positive facts about the people they care about.
Right.
Almost everyone has some kind of family structure, so it is a highly relatable topic. When you share a little bit about what your parents or siblings do, you deepen the other person's understanding of your background. It shows where you come from. If your dad is a chef, maybe you appreciate good food. If your mom is a writer, maybe you value creativity.
It provides context. But
Mhm.
let's be honest, family can sometimes be a complicated topic for people. What if you do not want to talk about your family with a complete stranger?
That is a very fair point, and that is exactly why that conversation naturally flows into an alternative topic that is almost universally loved. Pets. The classic pet divide between dogs and cats is one of the safest, most engaging topics you can point up when introducing yourself.
People really do love talking about animals. Here we learn from the source that Paul is firmly a dog person. He has a dog named Max. Max is small, brown, happy, friendly, and funny. Emily, on the other hand, is a cat person. She has a cat named Luna, who is black and white, very quiet, and very sleepy.
A sleepy cat. Very typical.
Very typical. Now, at first, I thought this was just a cute detail to make the conversation friendly, but here's where it gets really interesting. It is all about the adjectives they use for their favorite animals.
Yes, pay close attention to those descriptive words.
When Paul explains why he loves dogs, he calls them loyal and friendly. When Emily explains why she loves cats, she calls them elegant and independent. They're talking about animals, but it feels like they're actually talking about themselves.
You hit the nail on the head. This is a powerful lesson for anyone communicating in a new language. The adjectives you choose to describe the things you love actually act as a mirror.
A mirror for your own values.
Exactly. They reflect your own personal values. Paul values loyalty and friendliness. He likes connection and energy. Emily appreciates elegance and independence. She probably values personal space and quiet observation. By describing their pets, they are actually helping the other person understand their own core personalities.
That is brilliant because it feels so natural. If I want you to know that I am a peaceful person, I do not have to walk up to you and say, hello, I am a very peaceful and independent person.
No, that sounds strange.
It sounds very awkward. And
Yeah.
instead, I can just tell you about my quiet, sleepy cat and how much I love her independence.
Exactly. It is a way to show who you are without bragging or feeling self-conscious. You are just talking about your cat or your dog or your garden. But the listener is quietly gathering clues about the kind of person you are. This technique works perfectly in English, and it uses very accessible vocabulary.
Okay, so we have laid the foundation with our name and living situation. We have added warmth with our family and our pets. Now we reach a crucial part of our introduction strategy. This is the personality phase.
The likes, the hobbies, and the dislikes.
Yes, the likes, hobbies, and a very surprising trick that I want to debate with you later, the power of dislikes. But let's start with the likes and hobbies.
Sharing favorites is a standard part of any self-introduction. It gives the other person a clear idea of how you spend your free time.
The conversation walks through some specific preferences. Let's look at food. Paul loves vegetable pizza with tomatoes, peppers, and onions. Emily likes pepperoni pizza, but her absolute #1 favorite food is pasta.
A classic choice.
Then they discuss colors. Paul likes blue, Emily likes green. But they do not just state these as cold facts, they always add a because.
That because is the secret ingredient to a good conversation.
Paul says he likes blue because it is calm, like the sky. Emily likes green because it reminds her of nature, trees, and grass. It takes a boring fact, I like green, and turns it into a window into her mind.
Saying, I like green is a dead end. The other person can only say, okay. But saying, I like green because it reminds me of nature is an open door. It is an invitation for the other person to share their own feelings about nature or hiking or the outdoors. The specific details and the reasons behind them are what make you memorable.
They do the same thing with their hobbies. Because Emily is an art student, she paints every weekend to relax. She also loves to read adventure story books. Paul loves to listen to old rock music. He plays soccer with his friends on Saturdays, so he is quite active.
Yeah.
And he loves watching comedy movies because he loves to laugh.
They even find common ground. They both agree that animated movies are beautiful and imaginative.
Yes, these are all great positive things. They show they are well-rounded people. But then the conversation pivots to something very unexpected.
The dislike.
Yes, the dislikes. After listing all these wonderful positive things, they actually share what they do not like. Now, I have to challenge this. When you first meet someone, especially in a professional setting or when you are trying to make a good impression in a new language, isn't it a terrible idea to complain? You want to seem positive and happy, right all?
It is a common instinct. We want to seem perfectly happy and perfectly flawless when we meet someone new. We put on a big smile and only say positive things. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of human psychology, being flawless is actually quite boring.
Really boring.
Boring, and more importantly, it is intimidating. Nobody's flawless. Sharing mild, relatable dislikes is a brilliant strategy for building rapid connection.
What do you mean by relatable dislikes?
Well, let's look at what they actually complain about in the source. Paul says he does not like the taste of olives, and he really hates waiting in long lines. Emily says she dislikes very spicy food, and she strongly dislikes waking up early. She says the phrase, "I am not a morning person."
Oh, I say that all the time.
Most people do. Notice what they are not doing. They are not complaining about heavy, controversial topics. They are complaining about the minor annoyances of daily life.
Ah, I see. Waiting in line and waking up early. Those are very safe complaints.
Extremely safe. And when you share a mild dislike, you are showing a little bit of vulnerability. You are showing that you are human, that you get tired, that you get annoyed. This makes you seem much more approachable and authentic to a new English speaker.
But what if I tell someone I hate waking up early and they happen to love waking up at 5 in the morning? Doesn't that create a conflict?
Not at all. Even if they disagree, it creates a fun, low-stakes debate. They might laugh and say, "Oh, I am the opposite. I love the morning quiet." It still sparks a conversation. But more often than not, they will agree with you. If you say, "I really hate waiting in long lines," almost anyone in the world will nod their head and say, "Ah, me too. It is the worst."
And suddenly, you are on the same team.
Yeah.
You have formed a little alliance against a common enemy, even if that enemy is just a slow line at the supermarket.
Exactly. Bonding over a shared harmless annoyance breaks the ice faster than almost anything else. It lowers defenses. And using a phrase like, "I am not a morning person," is such a natural, common way for English learners to express this. It sounds fluent, it is simple to say, and it immediately makes people smile in recognition.
I love that. It takes the pressure off having to be a perfectly positive robot all the time. Okay, we have gathered a huge amount of information from this simple conversation between Paul and Emily. This brings us to the final and perhaps most important part of our discussion, the strategy. How do we actually apply this to our lives?
Because having a long list of facts is useless if you do not know how to deliver them.
Right. We have discussed your name, origin, home, age, job, family, pets, hobbies, likes, and dislikes. That is 10 different topics. If I walk up to a new coworker and list all 10 of those things without taking a breath, they're going to think I'm crazy.
They would be completely overwhelmed. You would sound like you were reading a dictionary entry about yourself. The crucial piece of advice we can pull from this is that you do not need to say everything at one time. The absolute key to a good self-introduction is curation.
Curation, meaning choosing the best pieces.
Exactly. Curating your information means actively choosing the right details for the specific situation you are in. Context is key. You have this whole menu of facts about yourself, but you only serve a few items depending on who is sitting at the table.
The source gives us a great way to think about this situational advice. Let's run through a couple of examples. First, imagine you are walking into a new English language class. You sit down, the teacher points to you and asks you to introduce yourself to the room. What should you pull from your menu?
In a classroom context, the main focus is learning and personal growth. The people in the room are there for a shared purpose. So the best strategy is to stick to the foundation, but add your motivation. You might share your name, where you were from, your job, and why you were learning English.
Okay, that makes sense.
You might say, "Hello, my name is Paul. I am from Canada. I am a teacher, and I am learning this language because I want to travel more." That fits the context perfectly.
You definitely do not need to mention that you hate the taste of olives in the very first minute of an English class.
Exactly. The olive detail is completely irrelevant there. It distracts from the purpose of the room.
Now let's change the context.
Yeah.
Imagine you are invited to a party. There's music playing, People are relaxed, maybe having some food. Someone comes up to you and says, "Hi, I don't think we've met. Tell me about yourself." If you give them the classroom answer, your name, your job, and your language learning goals, it might sound a bit too serious, right?
It would sound a bit stiff. At a party, your professional job or your educational goals are usually less important than your personality. A party is a social, relaxed environment. You want to focus on hobbies, interests, and maybe those fun, mild dislikes.
Like Emily.
Right. You might use Emily's strategy and say, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm an art student, but mostly I just love painting on the weekends and trying to find the best pasta in the city."
That is perfect. It gives the other person so many fun things to ask about. They can ask what kind of art you paint or where their favorite pasta restaurant is. So what does this all mean? If we're trying to summarize all these techniques for you, our listener, what is the ultimate rule for introducing yourself?
It really comes down to distilling the advice from Paul and Emily. First, keep it simple. Use clear, simple sentences. You do not need big, complicated, fancy words to sound intelligent or to make a good impression. Second, be friendly. And finally, always remember to smile. A genuine smile translates into every language on earth.
I think that is a huge relief for anyone learning English. You do not need to memorize a complex speech. You just need to be friendly and share a few clear details. And there's a beautiful reframing in the conversation that I want to highlight before we finish. At the end of their chat, Paul and Emily seem to agree on something very profound. They realize that the question, "Tell me about yourself," is not a test.
That is such an important mindset shift. When we are learning a language, we often treat every conversation like a pop quiz. We think there's a right answer and a wrong answer.
Yes, we feel like we are being graded on our grammar and vocabulary. But this question is not a scary test. Instead, it is simply an invitation. It is an open, friendly invitation to share a little piece of who you are.
I love that quote from the source, an invitation to share a little bit about you. When you view a self-introduction as an invitation rather than an exam, it takes the pressure off entirely. You stop worrying about constructing the perfect, flawless English sentence. Instead, you focus on being present in the moment and being yourself. You are just accepting an invitation to connect with another human being.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, I think we have uncovered the true value of this Mr. English transcript. A perfect self-introduction is just a mix of simple facts to ground the listener, a dash of your true personality through your hobbies or your pets, and a friendly attitude. It is a safe, easy framework that you can practice anywhere.
And this brings up a final lingering thought that I want to leave you with today. It builds directly on what we just discussed about curation and invitations.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
If an introduction is simply an invitation to start a new friendship or a new relationship, I want you to consider what kind of party you are inviting someone to.
What kind of party are you hosting? That is a really interesting way to visualize it.
Think about it carefully. The very first detail you choose to share from your list of facts actually sets the entire tone for the relationship that follows. If the very first thing you say is your impressive job title, you are inviting that person into a professional, serious, perhaps slightly competitive conversation.
Right. You are setting up a boardroom table.
But if the very first thing you share is a funny story about your sleepy cat Luna who refuses to let you work, you are inviting them into a casual, cozy, relaxed conversation. If you lead with a joke about your absolute hatred of waking up early, you're inviting them to share a laugh and drop their own professional mask. Every detail you choose to share is a door you are opening for the other person.
That is wonderful. It puts the control back in your hands. You get to decide what tone the conversation will have. So what detail will you choose to lead with tomorrow? What door will you open for the next stranger you meet? I want to say a warm thank you to you, our listener, for joining our deep dive today. Taking the time to explore how to connect with others and doing it while improving your English is a wonderful thing. Keep practicing those simple sentences. Think about the descriptive adjectives you use, and never forget the power of a smile. We will be back soon to explore more fascinating sources together. Until then, keep learning and keep connecting.